recent Pew survey indicated that 50% of people who regularly attend church on a weekly basis think that there's conflict between science and the Christian faith. Is that really the case? I'm joined today by Balajied Nongrum, who is trained in veterinary science, philosophy, theology, and science and religion to help answer that question. Balajied, one of the things that Scripture teaches us is that God has revealed himself to us through the record of nature. Do you see evidence for God's fingerprints in creation?
In fact, when you look at the scriptures is very clear with regard to that. You look at Romans chapter 1, verse 18 to 20. It talks about this important fact that, God has made the evidence very clear for us to see of his existence. Or for that matter, if you go back in the scriptures, Psalm 19, verse 1, which basically says that, the heavens declare the glory of God. So when you look at nature tells us that there is a God. There are evidences. And so when you really look at this and you investigate it a little bit critically, even from a scientific point of view, I find that there are numerous examples. Let me just look at just 4 of them. 2, in fact, are scientific and 2 are philosophical. But let me touch upon the scientific one. The first one comes from the cosmological argument. When you really look at the cosmos as a whole, science tells us that, this very assumption that drives science, or on which science is based upon, that is the law of causality, that when there is an effect, there has to be a cause. And so when you really look at the universe, now the latest discoveries that has been made indicates that, the universe is not what Aristotle said all along, that this universe is eternal. In fact, this universe is finite, and that we come to a conclusion based on few important evidence. One is the second law of thermodynamics, and the other one is also from the evidence that we find based on the findings through NASA, some of the photographs that people refer to as the cosmic radiation background. When you really look at that, it tells us about the Big Bang, And so when you really look at this, we know that this universe of ours is finite. It is not infinite. And so if it is finite, and it needs a cause, and that science in itself demands based on the law of causality. Mm-hmm. So I look back at the scripture. The scriptures affirms to us our faith when it begins with the most majestic of all passages that says that in the beginning God created the heavens and the earth. And when you look at the scriptures, it also, this very fact, in fact, affirms our faith. That the scriptures that goes back in time, that is written even long before, any other finding. But the scriptures has maintained all along that in the beginning, that there was a beginning. And today, when you look at science, science affirms that.
And it's interesting too, because it also means that whatever caused the universe must exist independent of the universe, must transcend the universe.
Exactly.
And so science is even pointing us to the nature of that cause to some degree, right?
In fact, when you look at other evidence, for instance, the second aspect that I would probably bring to the table is the argument from design. Mm-hmm. When you really look at the cosmos as a whole, macroscopically speaking, the macro universe, you find that, this planet Earth of ours, along with all the planets that is there in the solar system, and we are told that, this solar system is part of the Milky Way galaxy, and we are also told that there are many other galaxies. Now, when you really look at this, science basically tells us that there are 4 important forces that are at work in making this universe tick. And you look at the law of gravitation, and then you look at the electromagnetic force, the strong and the weak nuclear force. All of these forces work in tandem in order to make this universe, a universe that is so finely tuned and that makes life possible here on Earth. So that is with regard to the macroscopic view of the cosmos and the design. But on the other hand, you also see design not only from a macroscopic point of view, but even microscopically speaking. You look at the cell, for instance, and there is, plenty of design. You look at the cell that carries so much of information, the nucleus itself of, information for the formation of proteins and the DNA and so on and so forth. And basically the information that is packed within a cell, as someone would say, that it is equivalent to the information that would be packed in let's say, the Encyclopedia of Britannica. The equivalent. So that amount of design and information that is packed there, you cannot have possibly got this with no intelligent designer as such. So to me, this really brings me to the Bible as God being the creator of this universe. So I think we are on solid ground to believe that there is a God who exists and who cares for us.
It seems to me that when you're looking at this evidence for design, the evidence for the beginning of the universe, we're seeing a universe that looks exactly the way we would expect the universe to look if indeed God is a creator.
True. And in fact, you can also probably look at the other arguments as well, not only from a scientific point of view, but when you move a little bit closer and critically you look at our very existence itself, you look at the very aspect of why we, as human beings, we are created the way that we are. In fact, when you look at the ability that we have, or the capacity that we have to reason, or the ability to rationalize. So it comes back to the whole question of, a God who is intelligent enough, who has created us in the image of God. And that is what the Bible very explicitly points out, that you and I, we are created in the image of God. Image of God signifying that if God is intelligent, and so we are also intelligent, except that, God is intelligent with a capital I and we are intelligent with a small letter I.